Using the structureless Superflat world preset in Minecraft places you in an endless plane of grass blocks. Through various niche gameplay mechanics, it is possible to unlock a lot of Minecraft's features in a world like this, but you can't do everything. And what you can do is often done very tediously. To quote-unquote fix this, I made a mod adding some new features to the game that enables all base game progression, from the overworld to the Nether, and finally to the end. Here I've edited together a playthrough of this mod that I did while playtesting it. If you want to have a summary of how the mod actually works in advance, you can check out my devlog on it on my other channel. Also, I will say this video kind of assumes that you have some knowledge of how regular Minecraft structureless Superflat survival works. Otherwise, some parts might be a bit confusing, but anyway, okay, here's the video. So to start, this mod doesn't force you into Superflat or anything, so we still have to choose the Superflat world preset with structure generation disabled. Now that I'm in the game, I can't do much with the mod until nightfall, but in the meantime, I collect some dirt and I start marking out slime chunks. If you're unaware, slimes spawn under something like Y level 40, but only in certain chunks of the map. I want to eventually block any spawning within these chunks. The main reason for this is that only a certain number of hostile mobs can exist at a given time, and with slimes spawning all day, they quickly fill up this cap and lower the efficiency of any mob grinder I might want to make. Anyway, speaking of a mob grinder, I grab a bunch more dirt and start making a staircase up into the sky where I plan to build my mob grinder. The first night has begun and I am almost dead. This is probably a good time to mention that I'm not doing this in hardcore mode or anything like that because I don't hate myself. This is also when the first modded feature arrives. These pixies spawn only at night, and the pixie dust they drop is going to be very valuable moving forward. I build myself a dirt hut to hide in, then I die. Right now I really want to get some bone meal. Punching mobs with my hands really is not an effective way of getting items, and realistically I could just wait for the day to come and grab their drops when they burn in the sun. The hitboxes on pixies were kind of broken at first. Good thing I did this playtest so I could fix this later. So having not survived the first night, I collected some drops as everything burned in the sun. I also managed to kill a spider to get string, which will come in use later. Using bone meal from skeletons and my collected pixie dust, I made the second modded item of this playthrough, enriched bone meal. Using this on grass, I got immediate access to oak saplings, and I used the rest of my bone meal to get my first tree. With access to wood, I made myself a crafting bench, a chest, and a fire starter. My next goal is to get charcoal. In my mod, this is done by burning a log when it is partially surrounded by other blocks, sort of like how charcoal kilns work in real life, but not really. Since my fire starter can only start a single fire, I want to wait to have more oak logs before I use it, so I went back to work on the mob grinder platform using dirt slabs that I crafted using my new crafting table. At the end of day 2, I had the spawn platform built and spent the night hiding in my dirt hut. I was visited by a zombie villager in the night, but unfortunately I'm nowhere near being able to cure one of those yet, so they were of no use to me. Instead of hiding in my hut doing nothing, I started hollowing out the ground to get more dirt. Mobs can't spawn on bedrock, so it's fine that it's pitch black down here. On day 3, I crafted my first wooden sword and used it to gather more resources. Having collected more logs, I finally lit them on fire to try and get charcoal before being rudely interrupted by a skeleton. I'm trying to keep an eye on the log because if it keeps burning after turning to charcoal, I might just lose the charcoal entirely. I end up lucking out, and the first block to fully burn converts to charcoal. With this single block of charcoal, I can craft 9 pieces of charcoal that allow me to make a campfire. Although for that, I need more wood, so I craft a bone axe to speed up the collecting process. With that out of the way, I'm able to craft a campfire and a magic torch. The campfire will be used to cook zombie flesh into leather, which I will use to make magic scrolls, and the magic torch will increase rare mob drops when I'm close to it. With my first leather, I make parchment and craft a scriptorium, which is a new crafting block that lets me make magic scrolls. None of these new items matter much until I have a working mob farm though, so I continue to work on that. Since I have wood now, I can make trapdoors so that mobs will pathfind towards the center of the platform and hopefully fall down. As the sun sets on day 3, I start crafting a roof on the mob farm. And during the night, I finally seal up the mob farm and place down my magic torch at the bottom. The plan now is to harvest zombies for iron ingots. Normally they have a 1% chance of dropping iron, but with the magic torch it goes up to 10%. I spend the rest of the night collecting pixie dust. I really needed to get around to fixing that hitbox. This really sucked. Sunrise on day 4, I will soon need to worry about phantoms unless I'm able to craft a bed. There were a few sheep nearby, which I decided to just hunt. I bring my magic torch with me and set it down before attacking them to ensure I get the most drops possible from doing this, and then I realized probably I should not be killing the only sheep that I have in my world, and instead I can just go hunt spiders. I noticed that mobs in my mob grinder are just dying when they hit the ground, so I raise the floor up a bit so they take less fall damage. I need to defeat them myself for the magic torch to work. Then I take a ton of dirt slabs and start slime proofing. Mobs were still dying of fall damage, so I raised the floor up again. During the night, I lured a zombie towards my grinder so I could make use of the magic torch, and I got my first iron ingot. I need 7 to make a cauldron to collect water in, and then 3 more to make a bucket to actually use that water. I killed another spider and finally crafted a bed and slept through the rest of the night. It's day 5. I am getting some mobs in the mob farms, but I'm definitely being limited by the number of slimes in my world. That's a big problem for me right now. You can just assume that whenever there's downtime, I'm planting and chopping trees. At this point, most of my bones are going towards tools instead of bone meal. Although speaking of bone meal, I do use some to get some seeds from grass, which I grow into wheat. With the seeds, I lure a chicken into a hole in the ground, and then I get killed. Then I lure some cows over as well. Thankfully, I didn't kill all the sheep, so I'm also able to lure some of them over. A witch then spawns in my mob grinder and drops a bottle of water. Normally, witches only drop glass bottles. I changed the drops to also include water bottles because even with the ability to summon rain to fill up a cauldron, it can be super tedious, and this helps speed that process up. The rest of the day, I spawn proof more slime chunks and then go to bed. The rates in my mob farm are slowly improving, but I still need to spawn proof more slime chunks. And then I died. I swear, like I'm not trying to die. I just suck apparently at combat. My timing is really bad for the big slimes. I'm really bad at that. On day 6, hey, it starts raining, but I don't have a cauldron yet, so it doesn't matter. I can't collect any of this rainwater. I sleep off the rain, and you guessed it, I keep slime proofing some chunks. I guess I never explained this. I just assume people know how this works, but basically slimes need a flat 2x2 area to spawn in, so inserting a block every other space stops them from spawning. Slabs are just the most efficient way of doing this since you can convert a single block into 2 slabs, so you can cover twice as much ground. I spend the next 3 days slime proofing chunks, occasionally checking the mob grinder. On day 9, I get my 7th iron ingot from the mob farm, which lets me make a cauldron. This brings me one step closer to getting access to water. Now I just need it to rain again. Alternatively, I need 3 water bottles from witches. One of the zombies ended up dropping a carrot, so I was then able to farm up a lot of carrots using bone meal. These will come in handy for farming pigs. Unfortunately, my world has no pigs. Fortunately, I already thought of that, and I made a recipe for a pig summoning scroll. Using parchment, pixie dust, and a carrot, I make the scroll and I summon 2 pigs to start my farm. These will be instrumental in progression later on as they're required for acquiring gold. With just a bit more grinding, I get enough iron for a bucket, which I immediately use to craft a rain spell. The day is almost over, so I'll use the scroll tomorrow so I don't accidentally sleep and stop the rain. It is now day 10, probably. I kinda lost track, and I use my rain scroll. I do some more resource gathering while I wait for the cauldron to fill, and then get to work building an actual house so I can stop living in a dirt hut. My resource variety is pretty small here, considering I don't even have stone, so I use bone blocks to start tiling my floor. The mob grinder is very efficient at this point, and I get a second water bottle to add to my cauldron. The rain is just doing nothing for me here. It has contributed nothing to the filling of this cauldron. Although to be fair to the cauldron, I also I went to sleep while it was still raining. I could have waited longer for more water to potentially fill up in there, but oh well. It's day 11, I go to the mob farm, I feed my pigs, I chop some trees, I go to the mob farm, I work on my house, I move my furniture around, I go to the mob farm, I chop some trees, you get the idea. I craft a bunch of campfires and break them to get more charcoal. A campfire costs 1 charcoal to make, but drops 2, and it's much simpler than using a fire starter to try to convert oak logs. I'm almost done moving into my new house now, and it starts to rain naturally. Also, I have no roof. Will I ever build a roof? You'll have to watch until the end of the video to find out. I will never build a roof. I'm finding it pretty slow breeding the pigs, so I summon 2 more using scrolls. At long last, the rain fills the cauldron to the top. I go to bed and I realize that the first-person view model for my sword is incorrect, so that's another bug for me to fix. Then I grab a bucket and a bottle. With the bucket, I take the water block out of the cauldron, then I use bottles to refill it. It's quite silly that this works and allows me to create an infinite water source, but I don't know, that's Minecraft for you. With this, I'll be able to get drowned zombies and finally acquire copper. But first, I want to make a normal-looking wheat farm. I also start filling up some of the unsightly holes I've left in the terrain. Then I start digging out a section underneath my mob farm. The plan will be to instead drop the mobs down into water where the zombies will drown so that I can get copper from them. The mob farm will still work, just I'll have to waste durability on my sword since they won't be taking any fall damage anymore, so they'll just be tougher for me to kill. I just started making stuff up on the fly here. I've never tried making a drowned converter before. I threw in some signs to block water in certain places to ensure there's some water flow off to this side compartment so the zombies can't just swim back up to the surface. Minecraft water physics are really weird, huh? I got some unwanted visitors here in the form of randomly spawning pillagers. I then dug out the bottom of the mob farm so that everything will start to fall down into the water. Day 14, a creeper blows up my farm, and it's time to start fencing off my base. I can hear things drowning in the mob farm, so it is seemingly working. I am really slacking on my pig farming duties. I keep forgetting to feed these guys. After a little while, I actually have drowned zombies in my farm. Without fall damage, these take forever to clear out. After a minute of wailing on them, I get my first copper ingot. I'll need 3 for a lightning rod, and then 3 more to make a scroll to summon a lightning storm. After another 2 minutes, I have 7 copper, which is plenty. What I really need to focus on now is these pigs, since they are responsible for the next crucial step in our progression. It is the night of day 14, and I need more pixie dust. I craft some leather armor using rotten flesh and make myself a proper shield. Thanks to the skeletons in my farm, I also have plenty of arrows, so I add a bow to my meager arsenal. A secondary goal tonight is finding zombie villagers and witches, which I will need after I'm done with the pigs. Since they're relatively rare, I might as well start looking now. No zombie villagers tonight, but I do run into a witch. For whatever reason, when a hostile mob runs into a boat, it gets trapped in it. Unfortunately, I did this too close to my animal pen, and the witch starts killing my animals. Oops. While the sun rises on day 15, I finish boxing up the witch for later use. At this point, the drowned farm has given me enough copper to last a lifetime, so I put the floor back down in my mob farm. If I'm not able to find any zombie villagers in the wild, I might just have to try to get one out of the grinder, which will probably be easier if everything isn't drowning. I find my first zombie villager this night and try to disentangle it from a horde of other mobs. Thankfully, the other enemies just kind of give up, and I'm able to get it back to my base. Although this is nowhere near the witch. It has to be near the witch. Okay, it's near the witch now, and safely secured in a dirt hut. 1 more zombie villager to go. So on day 16, I was like, am I actually keeping track of the days properly? So I installed a mod, and it's actually day 19. Okay, why not? So sure, it is now day 19, and I will no longer have to try to infer from these old clips that I have which day was what, since I was in no way keeping track while recording. Where did those other 3 days go? Who knows? Let's be real, they were probably spent spawn-proofing slime chunks. I head over to my mob farm and notice the telltale legs of a zombie villager. I super quickly break open the chute and try to block off the top so new mobs can't get in. If a skeleton had tried shooting me here and gotten the creeper by accident, it would have probably been pretty bad. Thankfully that does not happen, and I'm able to get rid of all the mobs but my villager. Problem is it's broad daylight, so he'll burn if I let him out. I build a roof out of dirt and wood so that the zombie has a sun-free path over to where the witch and the first zombie are living. I make a boat to keep the zombie in and set him loose. Thankfully, he does not wander off the path and gets caught in the boat. Now I just need to unblock my mob grinder without setting off any creepers. This time a skeleton does see me and actually hits a creeper. In the end, I don't think there was ever actually any danger. Either the creeper hits the ground, and then the skeleton hits it with the arrow, and then that just kills it because it's already badly hurt, which does end up happening because I end up getting a music disc, or the creeper gets hit in midair, starts trying to explode, but then immediately dies of fall damage. reviewing my footage as well. I must have forgotten that this had already happened because I seem to already have a music disc. I start making a second pit with a lightning rod. Later on, I realized that there was no reason to have two pits, but oh well, I made two pits. I also add a lightning rod to the pig pit, and once I have a good number of slimes captured, I summon a thunderstorm. It hits the pigs first and converts them to zombie piglins. Then it hits the slimes and converts them to magma cubes, which is a feature of this mod. With a magic torch boosting my rare item drops, I successfully I successfully kill all the magma cubes and collect a bunch of magma cream. Then I sleep off the thunderstorm so I can harvest these enemies in peace. It was probably a bad idea to summon them all beside my bed, in my house that has no roof. So from that I got 27 magma cream, which is that's not at all enough for my purposes. Hopefully I have better luck with the pigs. And by luck, I mean planning and foresight, like counting how many mobs there are. I don't know why I didn't count how many there were. Once again, using a magic torch, I get to harvesting these mobs. Zombie piglins drop gold nuggets, gold ingots, and gold swords. And much like with the slimes, I just completely failed to count properly and end up with only 12 gold ingots when I needed 20. At least I got some magma blocks out of this, which when cooled with a water bottle, yield cobblestone, which is another feature of the mod. I now have 6 cobblestone, which is, again, just not enough to do anything with because, what I really need here is a furnace. I repeat the process again and get 5 more magma blocks, so I'm able to make that furnace. The furnace lets me smelt the gold swords dropped by the zombie piglins into golden nuggets, and now I'm up to 17 golden ingots, just 5 nuggets short of my goal. Since I have a furnace, I'm able to smelt cobblestone into smooth stone, which I use to make a stone cutter. Then I make a hopper. Then I realize, I still need 3 more stone to make a pulverizer, which is the next modded item I need. This is going very poorly. At this point I'm out of copper, so I have to salvage the lightning rod and the slime pit for my next thunder scroll. Thankfully with 17 gold, I have enough to make 2 golden apples, which I need to cure my zombie villagers. So the trick here is I need the witch to throw a weakness potion at me, and have the potion also hit the zombie, because using a golden apple on a weakened zombie starts the curing process. I spent a few days trying to get this to work. The witch mostly throws poison potions to get your health down, then finishes you off with a harming potion, which is not ideal. I just sort of messed around trying to get the witch to throw weakness at me, and then I would just either die to the harming potion, or I would retreat to my pet cows so I could use their milk to cure the poison. It took me forever until I decided to just look up how witches work. So if I'm not already poisoned or my health is above 8, the witch will throw a poison potion. Otherwise, the witch has a 1 in 4 chance of throwing a weakness potion, and the remaining 3 out of 4 chance it just throws harming potions. So I have to keep my health low enough that it stops poisoning me, but high enough that a harming potion doesn't one-shot me. It was taking forever, so I just kind of stopped recording, but eventually I did actually manage to get the villager hit with a weakness potion. Now checking in on villager 2, I found that he has some company that has spawned in since I trapped him. This was kind of nerve-wracking because I really didn't want that creeper to blow up and force me to go searching for a zombie villager again. While working on villager 2, I got the zombie doctor achievement. Are they still called advancements? Which means that my first villager was now cured. I moved him slightly away from the witch, because if one of those potions got him through a wall and killed him, then I would have rage quit and stopped playing this mod forever. Anyway, I don't know, this just took forever. This was so painful. Doing this, I was just burning through my food. I was continuously dying. I tried moving the witch closer. And then finally, at long last, the witch threw a weakness potion. Killing the witch after 4 days of attempting this was immensely satisfying. Worst part is that I could have just gotten more magma cream from those slimes. I could have made some obsidian. I could have made a nether portal. I could have just gotten, blaze rods and brewed the weakness potion myself. But I didn't realize I could do that. I thought I had to do it with witches. So, oops. So now what? I filled in some more holes in the ground and I replaced the sheep that the witch had killed. Next step, I need a villager farm. So I threw one together a bit quickly. I would credit a tutorial here because I definitely used a tutorial the first time I did this in single player like years ago, but now I forget who gets credit for this design, so who knows. The idea here is we have a farmer villager who is unable to compost items in the composter in the center since it is blocked off, so they just collect carrots, which they'll feed to the other villager or keep for themselves. And once both villagers have enough food stored up, and so long as there are beds nearby, they will have kids. And the kids will run off to the bed and get trapped in a water stream and stored for later. Speaking of, here's the first baby villager now. This first villager also gives me access to my first emeralds. Using all the bone meal I've collected, the wheat trade is pretty easy to do. Also, I started collecting slimes in the pig pit because, again, why did I ever make 2 pits? They can just share the lightning strikes. Now that I've salvaged the original lightning rod from the other pit, I was once again able to summon a lightning storm, hopefully for the last time. The worst part about these thunderstorms is that it makes it dark enough for regular enemies to spawn, so I have more than just magma cubes to deal with. Originally, I was hoping to lure more slimes in as I started clearing the first ones out, but then all of the regular enemies end up just hogging the hostile mob cap and no more slimes would actually spawn. This time, after clearing out all the magma cubes and piglins, I got 5 more magma blocks. I converted 3 of these to cobblestone, which finally gave me enough to make my pulverizer. This is the second modded crafting station I added to the game for the purposes of this challenge. By supplying it with a magma block and a bucket, I was able to craft lava. Nice. With this, I was able to make a cobblestone generator. With my cobblestone generator working, that's another big milestone down. Next up, I need to find a way to generate more lava so I can build a nether portal. In the meantime, I'm focusing a bit more on my villager setup, trading carrots to my 1 farmer villager to get emeralds so that I could buy a bell from my apprentice toolsmith villager. With this, I can craft a scroll to summon a wandering trader. What I'm hoping to get now is a piece of dripstone, which I can use to generate infinite lava so I don't have to farm magma cubes anymore. Unfortunately, this first guy didn't have any. Next villager I want is a Fletcher, so I use my pulverizer to craft some gravel from cobblestone. Then I break it until I have enough flint for a fletching table. The next wandering trader I summoned had no dripstone, but I did buy some of the plants they were selling. All these wandering trader summoning scrolls have me using up all my pixie dust, so on the night of day 36, I went hunting for more. Finally, my third wandering trader actually had pointed dripstone. So if you have a block of lava, then some regular block underneath it, then pointed dripstone, then a cauldron, the cauldron will slowly fill with lava, allowing you to duplicate that original block. I bought some extra dripstone so that I could make a dripstone farm. To do this, you have a dripstone block with water on top of it and pointed dripstone underneath it, which slowly grows a stalactite or a stalagmite. Now I have an abundance of available trades. For getting emeralds, I mostly use the Fletcher table for sticks and the farmer trade for carrots. Using the bones from my mob farm, I have a ton of bone tools and bone meal for getting more wood to make sticks, so it's a pretty profitable trade. Now that I've grown some more pointed dripstone and I've filled my first cauldron with lava, I can extend my lava production to have 2 cauldrons filling at once. I'm getting really close to getting to the nether now, so I no longer need to convert mobs using lightning, since I'll be able to just access magma cubes and piglins there. So I filled the pit I was using with water so I could start fishing. This gave me something to do while I was waiting for my lava cauldrons to fill up. When the lava cauldrons do fill up, I can use that lava to make another obsidian block, which goes towards my future nether portal. I'm getting decent iron from the mob farm for buckets, but if I want to secure a steady supply, I need an iron golem farm. This consists of 3 villagers stuck in a pit with a zombie nearby. For some reason, I didn't watch a tutorial for this and went based off memory, which was an awful idea. This thing will become the bane of my existence in the future. First up, I messed up making the roof out of slabs. I wanted it to be more compact, but then I was waterlogging slabs by accident, and a villager phased up through the ceiling and escaped. Meanwhile, iron golems are spawning, which, is giving me some extra iron, so I guess it's not too bad. With a magic torch nearby, I get 5 iron from each of them, which is pretty good. On day 43, I had the iron golem farm, seemingly set up perfectly fine from the surface, but then I checked out underneath, and the villagers are just gone. I think they might have just phased out of the world or something. The zombie doesn't even seem to have killed them. They just sort of ceased to be. When I tried replacing them, somehow the villager got into the boat with the zombie and then died. I have so many villagers at this point as well that cats are starting to spawn in, And with my new fishing pond, I was able to tame a pet cat. His name is, I don't know, let's call him Gary. By day 48, I finally had the last lava I needed to finish my nether portal. I got geared up with bone tools and a flint and steel and headed into the nether, which is now super flat thanks to my mod. This means I have zero protection from any hostile mobs, so I quickly placed down some protection to surround my portal. Once these walls were in place, I dug out a small tunnel underground so I could scope out my surroundings, and yeah, it's flat and there's mobs. I don't know what I expected. I figured I needed to approach this a bit more strategically. So step one was I need to get access to nether wart, which I did by crafting some mud into soul sand by adding pixie dust to it. Then I used some enriched bone meal on the soul sand to grow nether wart from nothing. Then I headed back into the nether, shield in hand, and quickly took down my first blaze and got a blaze rod. With this, I made a potion stand. Then I remembered you need blaze powder to actually fuel potion stands, so I went back into the nether. I got that, I got a magma cube, went back up to the overworld, and made some fire resistance potions. Being in the nether is just a non-stop barrage of fire in all directions, but with fire resist I'm basically invincible. That is, until I hit a zombie piglin with an arrow by accident. I was trying to kill them all by just like picking them off one by one, but it just wasn't working. Like reinforcements were just spawning endlessly. So in the end, I sort of tried pillaring off to the side to get them away from my base so that I could run back to my trapdoor as quickly as possible and get back to safety. Suffice to say, I no longer have to worry about access to gold. The next villager I went for was a smith, who I bought a ton of axes off of in order to level up. This gave me access to a decent iron trade, making use of my somewhat functional iron farm. Most importantly, I lucked out and got a trade for a diamond hoe after the next level up. Normally this is like the most useless trade imaginable, but here it's great. Each hoe is only 1 emerald and can be pulverized into 1 diamond shard. With 9 of these, I can craft diamonds, which are normally inaccessible in Superflat. Also, speaking of the iron farm, earlier I once again brought more villagers over to replace the ones that died, and hopefully this time it will actually work, but probably not. On day 51, I was back in the nether, this time farming wither skeletons for their skulls. This was also the first time I got coal during this playthrough. Only took 51 days for an item that is normally day 1. This was on an older version of the mod where getting to the end required fighting the wither, which, if you've seen my devlog on the mod, I realized was just a terrible idea, so nothing actually ends up coming of this. On day 52, I got enough diamond shards for my first diamond. So here I realized I really needed more endermen, but they can't spawn in my mob farm because the ceiling is only 2 blocks tall. So I started making a second spawning area, which was honestly a bad idea. And then it exploded, and yeah, it was just a waste of time. I'm better off just running around at night looking for endermen the old-fashioned way. When hunting endermen, I started off by just placing a 2-block tall ceiling to keep myself safe from them while fighting, but later on I graduated to just trapping them in boats. I always made sure to bring a magic torch with me to maximize their ender pearl drops. Anyway, then I died. Day 54, I crafted my second diamond. I had a zombie drop iron beside my iron golem farm, which was probably a good omen because it's finally actually working. Maybe. Hopefully. For now. So originally the mod had this feature where endermen rarely spawn holding the 2 Nylium variants or endstone, sort of like they just warped in from those dimensions and happened to be holding them. I planned on having the player get endstone from endermen in this way to build their end portal frame generator. That's an important block for later. Except, 1, I couldn't find the good drop rate that balanced it feeling special when they had these items versus making it not take forever to obtain them. And 2, it was just kind of bugged, and they only ever held warped Nylium because I messed up with the code, so I never even ended up getting any endstone in this way. After dying again while hunting endermen, I finally made a full suit of iron using my golem farm. Probably should have had that as a priority. Since this was, technically a playtest of the mod, I decided to make getting endstone a bit easier, so I just added a recipe for pulverized ender pearls, which are combined with sandstone to make endstone. Next, I had enough diamond shards to make a diamond pickaxe, and I used that to get the 3 obsidian blocks that were required for the portal. On day 56, I had officially given up on requiring the nether star to craft the portal because the wither is just way too hard compared to the dragon. It doesn't make sense to lock an easy boss fight behind a hard boss fight. It didn't make sense. So I changed the recipe for the end portal frame generator, and I crafted one. I found a good spot to place it, and then I forgot how to craft an end crystal, which I need to activate it. So the crystal needs 7 glass, an eye of ender, and a gas tier. And with that, I shot an arrow and created the portal frame. Now I just need enough ender pearls to actually fill it. On day, I don't know what day this was. It says it on screen. I don't know. I'm reading off a script. I was tired of hunting endermen normally, so I decided to increase the height of my mob spawner roof, which was like just so stupid in retrospect that thing is made of dirt. If endermen spawn in it, they can just pick up the blocks of dirt and just unleash hell upon my base. I replaced some of the walls at the base with not dirt, but I'm still not very sure it's safe. Also, I ended up like just finding 6 more in one night and getting like most of the remaining ender pearls. So that was so unnecessary. I didn't need to do that at all. I'm only 1 short now. Also, I completely forgot. You can just hunt endermen in the Nether, and you don't have to wait for night to do that. So I did that, and I got the last pearl. 58 days total, and my end portal is finally open. I geared up with some potions, a bow and arrow from my skeleton drop stash, and some golden carrots for good measure. Since diamonds are still a pain to gather, all my gear was iron, but let's be real, you can beat the dragon using beds. It's not exactly that hard of a fight. So now I'm in the end. It's super flat. I had coarse fruit spawning during the playtest, but I think in an update I'm going to get rid of that and just keep it purely flat. Apart from the world being flat, this is just an entirely standard fight. I clear out all the end crystals, healing the dragon. I get a few arrow shots in, and when it perches on the exit portal frame, I go in with the sword. Mid-fight, the day ticks over, and I defeat the dragon on day 59. Then I struggle to kill a few shulkers that had spawned in because this is structureless and there are no end cities, so they just spawn wherever. And that's it. That is all dimensions and the dragon defeated in structureless superflat using my superflat progression mod. I thought it was a pretty fun way to play through the game. You know, it definitely added a new challenge to it without being too grindy. Although, I mean, it still took 59 days. So yeah, I don't know. If you don't have the patience to play vanilla superflat survival yourself, why not consider giving the mod a try? Alternatively, if you do have the patience, just do vanilla superflat survival. You know, this isn't like a replacement for that. I'm not saying this is like the new and improved. Oh, never play vanilla superflat survival. No, this is just if you're like moderately patient but like not super patient. Why am I rambling? I don't know. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I don't know. Let me know what sort of videos you want on here. I'm gonna still be posting like Outer Wilds modded stuff. But, you know, I want to try and branch out into some more games in general, including Minecraft. So, yeah, I don't know. Let me know. Okay, bye.